2024 is almost over, which if you're like me, you're scratching your head wondering where the hell the year even went. But by the time this video comes out, we'll be halfway through December, and because 2024 is almost over, now is a good time to look back on the year's predicted color trends. Cause if you didn't know, every year big paint brands like Pantone and Sherwin-Williams use their connections to determine the color trends for the following year. In other words, it's a marketing gimmick, but they do try to predict the general vibe for that year through colors, and I gotta ask the question, were they right? And more importantly, can I build cute houses in Animal Crossing with them? I'm Galatunia, and I think I can. And I'm going to show you how close to using these colors IRL this experiment actually is by using a combination of color picking screenshots of in-game wallpapers and comparing them to the various branding promotional materials. Now, with Animal Crossing being a video game with preset colors, the odds of finding an exact match aren't the best, but as long as I stay within a similar chroma and value of the promotional images, I do get shockingly close with some surprising picks. And this is pretty realistic to what happens when you actually buy and use these paint colors. If you were to go out and buy any of these colors now and bring them home, they would not look the same in your living room as it would in the store or in the ads, because you don't have studio quality lighting or perfectly curated furniture to go with it. So keep that in mind because that's going to come into play later in the video. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's get into the first house design using the poster child of this year's predictions, Pantone's Peach Fuzz. Now, I profusely apologize ahead of time if I butcher this pronunciation, but according to Leatrice Eisman, the executive director of Pantone Color Institute, the company chose this warm pink with orange undertones as their 2024 color of the year because, and I quote, "In seeking a hue that echoes our innate yearning for closeness and connection, we chose a color radiant with warmth and modern elegance, a shade that resonates with compassion, offers a tactile embrace, and effortlessly bridges the youthful with the timeless." In other words, they chose it for its softness and warmth, hoping it would symbolically encourage people to be nice to each other, which I'm not so sure that's how this year panned out at all, Pantone. If I'm being perfectly honest, that's not at all the vibe this year took. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say they got that one wrong. Now that being said, it is a very pretty, very welcoming, warm, soft color, so I was excited to use it. And I found that in Animal Crossing, the pink simple cloth wall was actually really close to the color in the promotional image, so that became the backbone of my design. And keeping with Pantone's reasoning for the color in mind, I chose to build a house for Vesta. In the Happy Home Paradise DLC, Vesta requests a warm family space with a fireplace, which sounded like a perfect fit. Now that being said, despite the color being really nice and soft and warm, pink is a really difficult color to work with in terms of interior decorating, so I wanted to tone it down a little bit by injecting a lot of a neutral, in this case, white. And to get that white, I actually decided to use this custom code by Sokolodsky, and I will make sure that the creator code is on screen and in the description below if you want to take a look at that for yourself. And I just loved it because I felt like it evoked that family space with the little book nook cubby and the little loft above it. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do a whole lot with the loft space itself because I used the glow-in-the-dark stickers, which, if you didn't know, you can use custom patterns on glow-in-the-dark stickers to make custom designs like these for your houses. And that's an area I feel like we really haven't explored nearly as much in housing for Animal Crossing. It's actually the biggest reason why I wanted to do this particular video, is because I feel like as a whole, the Animal Crossing community hasn't explored Happy Home Paradise and what we can do with houses nearly as much as we've done for island designs, which is understandable why. Island designs are a lot more flexible. But this was a great opportunity for me to really work with these custom patterns to make the focal point on the north wall and then to create like a little bit of wainscoting. I kind of forgot to put it up during the early parts of the design, so you'll see me apply them to the rest of the walls later, but that is all from the same creator code. As for the rest of the room design, I really tried to focus on Vesta's requested items. When you remodel a house in Happy Home Paradise, I don't think you have to actually keep the items they request when they first order from you. But in this personal case, I kind of wanted to take it as a challenge to include them. And on top of that, for this theme, it actually worked very well with the color. And so I made a nice little gathering area around the fireplace, basically kind of chopped the room in half, because something I try to do, even though I know these houses aren't actually going to be used, is I still want both the player and the villager to actually walk around them if possible. I don't know, it's just a pet peeve of mine when the villager can't actually use the space in any way, and it also makes pictures a little harder to take. As for the colors that I use throughout the space, as I already mentioned, my neutrals were basically white and an accent neutral is brown, so that took care of the two main neutrals. And then for the woods, I went for various shades from light to dark, trying to match the various furnitures as best I could, but also make it look a little more lived in, because I don't know about you, but I never grew up in a perfectly curated home. We mixed and matched our furniture as we could buy it, and so I kind of just wanted to capture that essence a little bit. And I decided to focus on the accent colors that Sokoladski used in their custom pattern, which as you can see is kind of a muted green and blue, which ended up working perfectly for me because those do look good with pink. Hence why I went for the green sofa, green cushions on the chairs, the green sewing machine, and then of course all the plants. And then the rug itself. Rugs are really hard to pick in video games like Animal Crossing because unfortunately they're both pre-sized and pre-colored. In this case, I believe I used the beige elegant rug, I think. Either the blue or the beige. When you're picking a rug, basically, you want to have accents of most of the colors in your room in the rug. So the couch is green, it pulls out the green from the secondary color in the rug, the pink pulls from the wall, and then the blue background ties in with the blue cushion and the blue potted plant on the little Nord shelf. Otherwise, this room was relatively simple. I wanted it to look good no matter what angle you turned it at. And so whenever we pan to the front door, you're going to see another custom pattern code, and that's just a custom little window. That one is by Mila Crossing, and again, I will have links to her socials and the creator code in the description if you like it and you want to use it too. I thought it was very simple and it worked well with the little faux wainscoting I created. Otherwise, yeah, this design was relatively simple, straightforward, and made for a great warm-up for me. Now, moving on to the second house design, I decided to do the complete opposite thing and not use any custom codes at all. So if you like this particular build, but you don't have Nintendo Online, you can recreate this for yourself, and you can pause at any moment to do so. For this next build, I actually honed in on Behr's Cracked Pepper, which is a nice black. And I don't know, I just found it incredibly funny that Behr was the one paint company that went, you know what? No. You're gonna need a moody cave to just kind of hide from everyone in. And you know what? They were right. They were the only company that was right, in my personal opinion. Don't get me wrong, my 2024 was okay, but overall, it just feels like the world hit the bricks this year. So the idea that one company actually got it right with black, because it felt like the rest of the paint companies were going with like these pastels and these soft colors. Nope, black. Now granted, that's kind of a superimposed reasoning. The only reasoning I could find from the company themselves was on their promotional page, and it basically says, and I quote, "a versatile soft black that accentuates the space you create life moments in." So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but personally I think it was a bit of a bold move to pick this color. Now, I fully admit I was actually a little intimidated to design with black because if you've seen any of my other videos, if I design with colors, I tend to go with bold and bright. Whereas black's kind of moody and it's real easy for spaces to feel like just voids, like everything gets sucked in and there's not a whole lot of light. So I knew from the get-go lighting would be important with this design. For the wallpaper, I actually chose to use the chic tea room wall because it's crackly and it's got some separation. The crackling made me think of the name cracked pepper, but because it has so many elements in it, like the floor molding and the paneling, I thought that would be a good way to help keep the room feeling varied. Now, not only is this design the opposite of the Peach Fuzz design in that it uses no custom codes at all, but it's also meant to mostly be viewed from the door, whereas Vesta's house was meant to look good no matter what angle you were looking at. And so I had a lot of fun going a little more thematic this time. Something I adore when I look at Animal Crossing posts online is seeing people coming up with all these really cool dioramas, because that's something I really love doing. A combination of moss rugs and stone tile rugs to create that sense of road and grass. And I also use wooden fences with trees behind them. Even though I'm using an accent wall with tree wallpaper, I think it's the park wallpaper, but I do that to create even more depth. And so I can also use the little shining technique to make butterflies and just give the house some movement, because that's another thing that I'm really excited about when delving into houses. I love using animated effects to just make a place pop. Now, as for what I decided to design, this is Pashmina's house, and Pashmina wants a flower shop, which I thought would be very interesting against the black, because Behr was right about that. Black makes for an incredible striking neutral for colors to pop against, and flowers are bright, they're colorful, and I thought anything I put in this shop would really pop with the contrast. But on top of that, not that long before I decided to do the designs for this video, I ended up going into a local coffee shop, and that coffee shop was also predominantly black and dark wood tones. And it was a bright sunny day, and I just thought that the contrast between the inside of the shop and like looking out the window into the world outside, there was something really soothing about it that I wasn't expecting to feel. Like I was cocooned by the shop. I don't know if that's necessarily what they were going for, but that's what it made me feel like. And that's not something I expected to experience in an all black room as someone who prefers color and bright spaces. After that experience, I totally understand why people do prefer dark, moody spaces like that. Now, that being said, it wouldn't be any fun if I just made a pretty and polished flower shop. I kind of wanted to think more about the character herself, because Pashmina is a sisterly villager, and they're kind of rough around the edges, right? Even though they like flowers and if you talk to them enough, they talk about their experiences babysitting young kids, they're still intimidating. They still put a lot of people off, especially if you look at online communities that talk about who their favorite villagers are. Sisterlies are not high on the list, which saddens me because they're my favorite. They're at least my favorite for the girls. So I decided to make this flower shop a little bit messy, using, the sloppy items, strewn paper on the floor, office supplies out in the open, just to kind of make it look like this is a small, personal, kind of mom and pop flower shop. And I adored how everything came out. Truthfully, I vibe with it. Like I said, I think Behr got it right for 2024. Now, like Behr, Benjamin Moore also went with a dark, moody color for 2024, and they chose Blue Nova. And the reasoning for Blue Nova, according to their website, is the following: elevate the everyday and expand horizons through juxtaposed color that is sure to inspire. With Blue Nova leading the way, depth and intrigue are balanced by an undercurrent of reassurance. This alluring midtone features an enchanting duality, capturing the spotlight with endlessly classic appeal. In case you haven't figured it out already, these paint companies are really wordy and try to be kind of artistic with their reasonings for these colors. But looking at the promotional materials, I kind of got the sense that this was almost corporate, almost kind of snooty. Like, I don't really know another way to put it. It felt kind of snooty, like I shouldn't be using this color. So what better way to use a snooty looking color than to give it to a snooty villager? In this case, I decided to use Olivia because when you ask her what she wants in Happy Home Paradise, she wants basically the ultimate bedroom. I think it's called the nap den. And because blues are such calming colors, they're usually recommended for bedrooms. So I thought this would be a nice way to incorporate such a strong blue. Now that being said, I did have a bit of a difficult time finding a blue that was a good match. The closest I got was the blue paint wall, which was actually a pleasant surprise because I do like all the texture in that wallpaper. I like all the crackling, and it just made it feel old, and then it really played into the furniture that Olivia requests, which is the antique furniture. So I thought that was a very good match overall. I will say that this particular wallpaper was a little difficult to design, and you'll probably notice a lot of the designs across these 5 houses usually almost all use the north wall as a focal point, and that's kind of because in Animal Crossing, whether or not you have windows on the west or the east side is completely dependent on what wallpaper you use, and it can be a little hard to place items around the windows. That's also why most of the houses kind of get chopped up into 2 halves so far, but I think it worked really well for this particular one. I also had a bit of trouble conceptualizing this particular house design because while I adore color can get very overwhelming very quickly, and since this house doesn't really have any floor molding or crown molding or anything of the sort, it's just a blank slate of blue. I could have used wainscoting and found a custom pattern to make that, but I didn't want to completely copy what I did for Vesta, and on top of that, while I do use custom patterns, I wanted to do it in a different way than for the Peach Fuzz house. Instead, I made the accent wall the north wall again, and I used the glow-in-the-dark stickers to make window panes across there. Now, I couldn't find the name of the artist who made the original double hooked window with the plants, but I do have the creator code in the description. If you do happen to know the social for this artist, please let me know, because I do think it's important to credit artists when we can. Otherwise, the room is very straightforward. I used the glow-in-the-dark stickers to create window panes on the north wall. I used the partition wall items in front of those to kind of close it off. And a cool trick I've learned from another YouTuber, I will leave a link to their video in the description as well, is even though you can't hang wall-mounted items on the faux partitions you place, you can still hang those items on the walls behind them. Certain items will peek out and it will change the look of those items, and I really like this trick. It gives a little bit more variety in how these items actually look, and it just brings a bit of life to the space. Now, because the blue is such a dominant color, I stuck mostly with neutrals, and I also stuck more with complementary colors, mostly red. I actually was inspired by Benjamin Moore's promotional image for Blue Nova. That orange modern chair against that really classic color really spoke out to me. So I used the artistic chair, though I didn't go for orange because there's really not that many orange items in Animal Crossing. Instead, I went with red because red and blue go great together. And then the green and the argyle rug tied it together with all the plants. Everything came together nice, and I don't know, I think I would sleep in this room. This bedroom wouldn't be for me. It feels a little too stuffy, but I like the color itself, and I think it would be fun to play with something like this. Now, do I think Benjamin Moore got it right? They were kind of on the money a little bit here, that people are looking for more tactile experiences. I also think to all the people that are absolutely horrified, including myself, at, house renovation influencers on TikTok just destroying these timeless wood-rich homes. And no, I'm not going to show a clip on here because 1, I do not want to be demonetized. 2, I'm not giving those leeches, for lack of a better term, I am not giving them any more screen time than they have already gotten. They don't deserve it, but chances are you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a shame that we're losing so much older architecture, and there's more of an appreciation for older antique and retro things. So I do think in a way, Benjamin Moore did get the vibe right here, so kudos. Now the fourth color we're going to explore is Sherwin-Williams Upward, which was a very breezy pastel blue. And you're probably gonna be scratching your head at the design I chose for this one, but just bear with me, I promise it will make sense. Because if you've noticed through the first three designs, I didn't want to just test the colors in the most obvious way. I wanted to put them through various situations. Like, I don't think most people are going to be using peach fuzz to paint their living room. Most people don't want a pink living room, even though I totally would. So I wanted to test Upward as kind of an exterior paint, because that's not something that we usually do with pastels, not unless you're on the coast. Which, speaking of coast, if you look at Sherwin-Williams' website for their 2024 color of the year, they say, introducing Upward, a breezy, blissful blue. The color found when we slow down, take a breath, and allow the mind to clear. With a little heading, a hint of silver lining, which, god damn it. I'm not gonna lie, that actually does kind of sound like the mindset we had to have this year for everything that happened. People were struggling to find silver linings everywhere. So I'm not gonna give them the slam dunk that Behr did, but they were closer than Peach Fuzz and Blue Nova. They were good. As for the design itself, I wanted to take that idea of being breezy, blissful, slowing down to take a breath, and I decided to build a home for Keaton, which in Happy Home Paradise, he wants a seaside cafe. So I only really used the color on the south wall where the entrance is, and I used this painted blue wood panel wall. I think that's the name for it. It definitely looks darker here than the promotional materials do, but a lot of that is because of lighting, and pastels are a bit of a hit or miss when you actually use them in interior decorating, especially for wall paint, because lighter colors in general rely so much on the lighting in your home. Darker colors, they maintain their color and their presence regardless of how much light is in the room. For the most part, lighting is still important not to make your rooms feel dingy or claustrophobic, but light colors actually have a harder time looking the way they do in promotional ads because lighting is so much more important for them. They get their color by reflecting light. Either way, I was inspired by the wood paneling in their kitchen promotional images, and so that's where I got the idea to basically do a little surf shack. A little surf shack seaside diner in that blue. So this one's the one that was probably the most difficult to match and looks the most away from the promotional materials, but I thought I captured the vibe. That being said, even though this particular build was a bit unorthodox, I still had a lot of fun doing it because it kind of made me think about the different shades of blue that would work well with it, because I don't do monochrome designs all that often. I don't usually use different shades of one color. I like to mix different colors. So this was a good exercise in using different kinds of blues. And it was just nice to be able to tell a little story. Like, here's this little seaside cafe, and if you really want to slow down and take a breath, you can just go fishing. Now, the fifth color in our little experiment today was actually my favorite out of the bunch, and that's Glidden's Limitless, which is just this bright sunny yellow that they treat like a neutral, and I adored how they styled it. However, it was surprisingly difficult to find a color that matched this in the game. Most of the wallpapers and most of the furniture in Animal Crossing either go really pastel or really bright and saturated, like with the cute sets. But you'll never guess where I found an almost dead-on perfect match. The default simple white cloth wall. I know, it's a yellow room. What the hell am I doing using a white wallpaper? The answer is simple: lighting. Remember what I said in the beginning of the video that your lighting will completely change how you perceive the colors in your room? This is where that applies. If you use the first lighting setting in Animal Crossing on the white simple cloth wall, it is an almost perfect match with Limitless. I was completely surprised too, but I was so thrilled because I think out of all 5 colors I played with today, this was the closest surprise. And I've never actually used the white simple cloth wall. It feels like, since it's the default, that's the first thing we get. You know, Blender videos, if you watch those, the very first thing people do is they delete the default cube and then replace it with one of their own. That's what the white simple cloth wall feels like in Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise. You just get rid of that wallpaper as soon as you can for something you like better. So getting to use it in a way that makes it shine actually really had me excited. Now for this color, I decided to build a house for Pearl. She wanted a cozy home under her kotatsu eating oranges, and I felt that with such a sunny color, it would be the perfect match, especially since she also loves blue. Blue is her favorite color, and that would make a nice popping contrast. And this was far and away my favorite design of all 5, so I saved my favorite for last. Much like I did with Blue Nova, I decided to use an accent wall on the north wall and use the glow-in-the-dark stickers to create window panes. And then from there, I just layered a bunch of natural tone wood furniture to create that sense of depth. And I wanted the room to be more cluttered than all the other ones, because remember at the beginning of the video I said I really prefer it when a villager can actually move around in their house so that they can actually use the home you build for them. For this one, it didn't matter to me quite so much, because I felt like the main place she's going to be is sitting at her kotatsu eating her oranges, which it's kind of weird we don't have an item. Maybe we do and I'm forgetting about it, but I couldn't remember if we had just a plain bowl of oranges. Maybe it was a New Year item and I couldn't remember it. So she got an orange pie instead. But yeah, otherwise there's not a whole lot left to say. I wanted everything crowded in the southern half of the room. I did cover up the west wall with partitions just because I didn't really want another window over there. I wanted all the light concentrated around the kotatsu, and this let me use the trick that I used in the Blue Nova house to kind of hide the plants within the walls and just give it a different look. Otherwise, this particular design was very straightforward. Everything was all about layering and lighting. Now, I was so excited to get into this house design that I completely forgot to read Glidden's reasoning for making the Limitless their color of the year in 2024, and they say that this modern neutral is as adaptable as its name implies and is taking the place of cool neutral tones that are so last year, which is a real interesting quip to make considering so many of the colors the other paint brands chose for 2024 are actually in the cool family. Peach Fuzz wasn't, but Blue Nova and several of the other smaller paint companies either went with darker or more pastel jewel tones. With the selection of Limitless, gray is officially canceled. What can we say? Warm neutrals just hit different. And I couldn't agree more. Do I think they fit the vibe of 2024? I'll be blunt, no. This color is way too happy to really fit the vibe for this year, but I love what it stands for, and I do think that with the right styling, this color would work in most homes, especially since a lot of people gravitate towards warmer woods to make that cozy feeling. And that's it. That is 5 of the color trends predicted for 2024 by some of the biggest paint companies in the world. And now I gotta leave the question to you. What did you think? Did you think any of them got it right? Do you think multiple of them got it right? And I gotta know, which color was your favorite and which one adapted the best to Animal Crossing? To my complete surprise, I really do think Glidden's Limitless actually translated the best into Animal Crossing, which is still funny to me since that wallpaper is technically white. But I guess that just shows that the color is living up to being a warm neutral. That being said, a close second place for me is surprisingly Cracked Pepper. I really loved how Pashmina's build came out, and I would be interested in seeing more spaces actually use it. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then please do feel free to comment more housing design challenge ideas for me to execute in video games, because this was so much fun and I'm already cooking up more ideas, but I would love to hear more from you. And so that you don't miss those upcoming videos, be sure to subscribe and consider becoming a member of the channel or joining my free Patreon community, where I cross-post updates for my longer ongoing projects. Otherwise, until next time, see you then!